Welcome into this Five Clubs conversation. Very much looking forward to talking to the gentleman who's going to join me in a moment. He's won 44 times around the world. He has ascended to world number one, where he stayed for 22 weeks. And a lot of people were probably shocked that at Whistling Straits, he was not a vice captain for the European team. He was on the side for the 11th time. I'm talking about Lee Westwood. I believe that Lee is a guy who is going to one day be in the World Golf Hall of Fame. No, he has not won a major championship. We've seen precedents as far as players getting in absent of a major championship. Jumbo Ozaki got in. Colin Montgomery has gotten in. I think Lee is going to find his way into the World Golf Hall of Fame. But more importantly, he is a great talker, and he's a thoughtful guy, and I really expect his voice. I think he is somebody who's probably going to do television down the road when he chooses to, but he's approaching 49 years of age, and he's still highly competitive. He won in Abu Dhabi to begin the year last year. So Lee Westwood is our conversation this week. I promise you're going to enjoy it. And with that, we bring in the 44-time winner globally, Lee Westwood. Lee, how you doing, buddy?
Very good, Gary. You?
I'm doing very well. You know, you had a good weekend. You actually, you played well the last day, but I'm not talking about the golf. Your 49ers advanced to the NFC Championship game. Nottingham Forest had a good weekend. I want to ask you, where's your 49er fandom? Where did that originate?
I think watching NFL in the 80s in England, we didn't get too many games, and it was always on Channel 4, and the 49ers were pretty much the best team back then. And watching Montana and Rice just stemmed from there.
Yeah, they it's interesting. I was going to ask you about this idea of age. And rarely can I talk to guys who play at the level you do that can talk about Montana and Rice. These these guys want to talk about Patrick Mahomes. But have you been to a 49er game in Santa Cruz?
No, never.
Okay.
No, I've got to go to one at some point. Yeah, it's on my bucket list.
You went to when you guys were in Vegas, it might have been around your wedding. Didn't you go to a Golden Knights game in Vegas?
Yeah, we did. We went to a Golden Knights game back in June, just before we got married. So the day before we got married. So that was a great experience. Incredible atmosphere. I must just say that my wife Helen is a Rams fan. Believe it or not.
Oh, you're kidding.
No.
What are the origins of that?
Just once again, from years ago watching, I think she likes the pattern on the helmets.
Okay. I want to ask you about your dad to start with. Your dad was a teacher, right? Math teacher?
Yeah. Math teacher, yeah.
Were you a good student?
Well, I got an A. Whether that means I'm a good student or not is another thing. I think I did the bare minimum.
Gotcha. Did your your time with your father as a kid? You played cricket, you played football. You were an athlete. You liked all sports. Did your father encourage that as somebody who was on the academic side? Was he all for you being an athlete?
Yeah, very much so. He got me to try everything. I played a lot of football, with soccer, as you call it, and rugby, cricket. I was a good runner. And I only took golf up at the age of 13, just purely by chance, really. My grandparents had bought me a set of golf clubs, and one summer holiday, my dad, he got sick of me throwing stones in where he was fishing, because he's a big fisherman, and he said, let's go and have a game of golf, and it really went from there. I went round in about 180 first time I played, but I hit a couple of good shots, and he said, you want lessons? Took me for lessons to a local professional who was very good at teaching juniors, and 6 years later I was playing on tour.
Do you think, and I've had this conversation with John McEnroe because he runs a tennis academy, and I had a very good friend whose son was an elite junior tennis player, but he was also a very good athlete and played other sports. And his father said to John, and I later asked John about this, he asked him, should my son just focus on tennis? He said, no, no, no. I want him to play all sports. I want him to be athletic. I'm going to want him to think like an athlete. Do you think that that's a beneficial thing yourself?
Very much so. I totally agree. And maybe not quite as much with tennis, but certainly with golf, you're doing the same movement over and over again, which can't be good if you're a young child whose body's just developing. So I think I was fortunate that I played all sports and, got into pretty good shape. Did a lot of swimming, a lot of running, and I had a good foundation to then build upon with a golf swing where it's, just one action all the time. You stand in the mirror and look at yourself and your body's all uneven once you play golf for a lot of years. And, if that starts happening when you're a 4 or 5 year old kid, if your parents are taking on the reins and you're ingrained in that, then it won't be long, as the body's developing, that you'll get back issues and hip and shoulder issues and things like that if you haven't got that solid base. So yes, definitely. I'm all for kids trying everything.
Did you have a singular moment, or was it a series of things that happened in your young adult life that convinced you that you were good enough to do this for a living?
I think the light bulb moment was probably getting picked for the England boys team. I'd won the county championship and I'd started contending in national tournaments. But when I got picked for the England boys team, I thought, I'm one of the 12 best players in the country, and there's probably a future for me in the game of golf. I wasn't sure about what level. I would try to stay in golf or sports if I hadn't got to the elite level. So I just like being around sports really and sporting people.
What incarnation is this for you? Is this? I think it's beyond 2.0 because you got to the top 10, then you had a lull, then you got to world number one. And then I thought, I thought after Hazeltine, I'm like, you know what, he's going to be a captain in 5 years. And then you turn up at Whistling Straits, you're on the side, you win in Abu Dhabi last year. What are we on? Are we on 3.0, 4.0?
You know what? I don't know, but I do believe in reinventing yourself. You've always got to find new goals and, come at things from a different angle. If that's 3.0, 4.0, I don't know, but, you've got, I think the secret to longevity is keeping things fresh and interesting. It's easy to become stale and, a little bit jaded. And if you can, keep changing goals and working on different things, but with the same objective, then, that's the secret to longevity and staying kind of energized and in love with the game or any sport, I suppose.
Lee, when you won the Nedbank, I was in studio doing morning drive. We were following the coverage, and we're sitting there in the studio waiting for the tournament to end. And clearly, it was an emotional time. Helen was on the bag. It had been a little while since you had won. I want you to take me back emotionally to what that meant. Did it feel as much like a coronation as it did to a rebirth? What was that particular win like for you in terms of what it told you about yourself?
I think it was proof, really, and proof. Obviously, there was relief there, but proof that I'd still got it to contend at that level. And then you don't know when your last win's going to be. I don't care, which player you are. You go back through history. There's guys that have won, say, major championships, and then it's the last time they've won. You never know when it'll end. So, it was good to come down the stretch and hit the shots when I needed to, because I've been playing fairly well most of that year and just not finishing it off, and that's a mental thing. That's staying calm, under that situation and really believing in yourself that gets you over the line.
Did you think when you were 30 or 35, forget how highly competitive you remain, that you would still be playing competitive golf as you approach 49?
I think you hope to. You hope to stay physically fit enough. But I guess when you're a 35-year-old, they'll say 37 when I got to world number one. You look at the years ahead, and you would probably look towards 49. You know, you're starting to gear up for the Champions Tour. So, you know, staying out here on the main tour, just really keeping your eye in and staying competitive, and looking forward to, you know, turning 50. Whereas, you know, I was delighted with last week's first event of the year. You know, it was the first 4-round tournament I'd played since the Ryder Cup. So I was pretty jaded. I'd had COVID just before Christmas as well, which, you know, because I'm asthmatic, had hit me really hard. And, you know, I hadn't been really able to do any physical work, and still not for a few more weeks. No work on my golf swing because, you know, winters are pretty cold in England. And obviously, you know, we haven't got the greens to, you know, and short game facilities to fine tune your game on. So there was a lot of things going against me last week, and it was good I got off to a slow start as well. I was 3 over after 6 in the first round, and you know, it was good to kind of stick in there and plug away, and see my game improve as the week went on.
You know, you've had your son on the bag. Helen has carried for you. You know, obviously Bay Hill players, that 2-week stretch where you push Bryson. Same thing with Justin Thomas the following week. What is Helen? Is she a life coach? Is she a psychiatrist? She's far more than a caddy.
Yeah, best friend, and a shot of reality whenever I need it, I think. You know, I'll start moaning and she'll go, "Did you die?" You know, like from the hangover. And, you know, that's what you need every now and again. We all need a dose of reality every now and again.
Does she go to the sugar cube or the whip? And I use that horse racing analogy because you're in thoroughbred horse racing. Do you respond to the whip or the sugar cube?
A little bit of both, I think. I'm definitely a horse that likes good going. I don't like it sloppy, and you know, I don't like the cold and wet days so much anymore. I like it sunny. I'm a fair weather golfer. I've definitely turned into one of those.
You know, you're in Dubai right now. You just came from Abu Dhabi. You know, the DP World Tour, formerly the European Tour, I thought did a brilliant job cultivating this part of the world. As far as identifying markets, you guys have been able to attract, you know, obviously fabulous fields for a long, long time. The DP World Tour, what do you think it's going to be in 10 years?
I honestly don't know. I think golf's changing so rapidly at the moment that, you know, nobody can really look that far into the future. I don't know where it'll be in the next 2-3 years. You know, there's rumors flying around and everything's changing so quickly. You know, I've got one eye on the DP World. I'm also a member of the PGA Tour. The Seniors Tour's looming. So, you know, there's a lot of juggling and spinning plates at the moment. But, you know, Keith Pelley does a good job. He did an incredible job through the COVID situation. DP World are obviously a huge company. They put a lot of money in. So it's an exciting time for the DP World Tour. And it'll be fun to see what does happen over the next few years.
You know, Lee, I thought that the alliance between the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour was smart. I think it'd be even smarter to continue to try to find events to co-sanction, to give opportunities to players who are primarily anchored in Europe, the chance to gain some points and potentially some status on the PGA Tour. I also think it protects the DP World Tour. Do you think they should co-sanction more events going forward? They've got the Scottish this year. I'd like the players to be co-sanctioned myself, and I think the same of the BMW PGA. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't like the idea that we've been getting rid of World Golf Championships for starters, because that's taking away that aspect of it. They were co-sanctioned. You know, you get a mix of players from all over the world. I think at the end of the day, everybody just likes to see the best players playing against each other as often as possible. I think that's why I watch sport. You know, I like watching any sport really, as long as it's played at the highest level. And to watch golf played at the highest level, you've got to have the best players playing against each other as much as you can.
I talked to Jason Kokrak, had him on the show last week, and he gets paid by the Saudi Golf, and you know, he was pretty candid about if that opportunity presents itself. I think the threat is more than just, an existential threat. I think it's very real. Do you see this thing coming to fruition in the next year?
Yeah, I've played in Saudi the last 3 years, and I'm playing again this year. So, it's competition for the PGA Tour and the European Tour. And generally, I think competition's a good thing. So, at the end of the day, it's a job for everybody playing out here. Golf is my job. Generally as a sportsman, you don't have a long career, although I'm kind of proving it a little bit the other way. But, in 10, 15 years' time, you're forgotten and then somebody else comes along. So, sometimes you've got to be selfish and take care of yourself.
With that being said, I mean, look, this is significantly a tremendous amount of money. I mean, is it plausible that if they present you as something that is astronomical, that you would consider making the jump?
Yeah, I said at the PGA Championship last year, and I did a presser. I don't know if you heard it, but my age, where I am in my career, I have to look at all options.
Yeah.
And that there is a figure. Obviously, everybody's got a figure.
I was amused last week because you always have this back and forth with John Huggan, who I call Ebenezer Scrooge. And I love John. My gosh, he always wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, like every day. And it was funny about...
John's only happy when he's miserable. That's what I say to him.
Do you like the written word? Do you like reading what people write about the game of golf?
Yes, I do. And unfortunately, with the internet, I think it's getting lost a little bit. I have friends in the media, good writers that are just getting let go by, newspapers and magazines because it's so easy to just make a story off a transcript nowadays, or, take little bits out of other people's stories. So, I think that's the downside of the internet. That I do like to see a press conference when all the guys are sat in there and they all come out of it with their own kind of, they've all asked their own questions and all made their own. They write the story how they want to write it. Sometimes it gets a bit dull seeing the same old thing in type, taken off a transcript.
One of the reasons, my theory anyway, as to why people are so fond of you here in the States is that there seems to be just a real comfort with who you are, and you're apolitical. You have an opinion, you share it, you're not bothered by response. I don't think that that's necessarily the case, and I'm not trying to blanket every American golfer. I think they're more careful with their words, and I think the European Tour, and specifically the European Ryder Cup Team, a lot of Americans like you guys a lot, and they find it hard to root against you. Do you feel that? Do you feel the affection that American golf fans have for the lot of you?
Yeah, I've always had a good relationship with American golf fans, a good deal. When I was contending at Bay Hill against Bryson and at the Players' Championship this year, I felt like, people were cheering me on as much as they were cheering Bryson on, or, whoever may be playing at that time. I think we do live in an age where the golfers and sportsmen in general are very guarded. You watch people doing media interviews and stuff like that. They would like to say something, but they also have big sponsors backing them and a logo somewhere on them, and they have to take that into consideration. You can see them tampering down what they actually think and giving the politically correct answer, which whatever that may be at that particular time. That seems to change with the wind nowadays. The guys aren't. I don't want to say encouraged, but it's not as easy for guys to give the honest answer anymore. It's you get jumped on too quickly, and everybody. I always find that everybody nowadays is so easily offended. Like you said, it is just an opinion. Everybody has one. Everybody's allowed one. But sometimes it seems like if that's slightly against the grain, then you really do get jumped on for it.
I look, when you get to major championships, you alluded to the PGA Championship. You sit there and I look as a media member at the lineup of interviews, and I think by and large they're all interesting, but to me it depends on how much you want to give. Like, for instance, Dustin Johnson I think is brilliant because every answer is a non-starter. Like, it never really prompts a follow-up, and that's fine. And I think that he does it brilliantly in that way. And then there's Phil Mickelson who wants to impress upon you that he's got a depth of knowledge on every subject, whether it's derivatives or horse racing or who's the long snapper for the Los Angeles Chargers. Have you changed your approach to the way that you answer questions in a media session in a long form?
I'm very guarded now when I give an answer. I try and it's almost negative. I try and visualize how it could be interpreted and how it could be interpreted in the wrong way. I think that's just come with experience. But all I've ever tried to do in, presses is just try and be honest, give the honest answer. Try not to offend people, obviously. But my parents always brought me up they said you'll never go wrong being honest. Tell the truth, and that's if that's what you believe in, then you've got to say it.
I love talking to other athletes in other sports about golf because a lot of them are passionate about it. And I was talking to Steph Curry a couple of years ago, and I asked him, what do you think is one of the biggest challenges for a professional golfer? He said that they have to talk to the media after essentially the first quarter of a game, halftime of a game, and then you have to go home and sleep on it. And the media is trying to project to like the next day and the next day. And what would this mean? And it's like, wait a second, I got 2 rounds to go. Has that been challenging for you through the course of your career to have media that wants to create a narrative and to essentially write the story before it's written?
Yeah, obviously you have to think before you give your answers. It would be nice to have a cooling down period, but that's not what the media want. They want you hot. They want that. They want that emotion. They want that anger almost. Like we said earlier, or like you asked me about. A lot of the guys just stand there and almost give one-word answers. It's very bland and boring. They want that little bit of spice to write their stories about. So it's you learn to deal with it with age. But it can be tricky. If you don't care and don't listen to other people's opinions, it becomes a lot easier. You should just really judge your own performances on, whether you can look in the mirror and say, I tried 110%. Say it's a Thursday, I tried 110% today. Some days it's going to go well. Sometimes it's going to go wrong for you. There's nothing you can do. The only thing you can control is that maximum effort, really, and as long as you've done the preparation. After that, once the ball's in the air, you've got no control over it.
One of the things about Tiger's career that I think has been underrated, and I actually think most of his career is underrated, is he's always had a responsibility. There's a referendum for him every round. So there's a sense of responsibility that he's going to talk to the media, whether it's, 65 or 74. And for you, you're a headliner. You turn up. You probably have a pre-tournament media responsibility. But by and large, it's going to be predicated on how you play day to day. With him, it doesn't matter. And yet he's done that day in, day out, week in, week out, year in, year out. And his performance doesn't slip. Lee, and your career, you're just a shade older than him. I think it's flat remarkable that he has had the obligations that he's had, and it never affects performance.
Yeah, he certainly had a lot to deal with, and I think dealt with it really well. I think he honestly doesn't care what you or I think, and I think that's a huge advantage.
Do you think, and again, this is all pure speculation, and you would say, well, what is he motivated by? I think he can find motivation anywhere. Do you expect him to play competitive golf at some point this year?
I expect him to try his hardest to do that. Um, I would never put anything past him because he's proved everybody wrong on a few occasions. Um, when you consider what he's dealt with or what he's gone through during his career, when you look back at it now, during them times, to still play great golf with golf being such a mental game is phenomenal, really. So yeah, I would never put anything past him.
Watching him with his son, the thing that I found most endearing was that his son, nobody tries to replicate Tiger's swing, but his son has the fingerprints of Tiger's golf swing. Does your son have mannerisms that are commensurate with yours? Do you look at him and go, my God, it's spooky. He's like me.
Yeah, kids are great at imitating. Yeah, Sam's has the same faults I have. When I look at his swing, I think, he maybe swings it better than me, but the only thing that really bothers me about Tiger and Sam when I'm watching them is that everybody judges, everybody puts, sorry, Charlie and Tiger.
Yeah.
The only thing that really bothers me is that everybody compares Charlie to Tiger. It'd be nice for Charlie to be able to go out there and
no
beat
question.
Charlie and just be the best Charlie Woods that he can be. And it's unfair to compare anybody against the best player there's ever been, Tiger, in my opinion. A lot of people will say Jack, but it's Tiger in my opinion because I've grown up in that generation. So to compare his son to him, I really hope he has the same mental fortitude as Tiger and can block everything out and not listen to other people and just be able to shut that off, just be himself.
No, it's a very good point. If you look historically, there are a lot of great families in golf. But you talk to the fathers, and as much as there can be opportunity that whether it be a Drew Love or whether it be a Bill Haas or whomever it may be, there is that burden that exists. For you as a father of a kid who likes the game of golf, I mean, what can you possibly do to allow him to be himself?
Just keep telling him that. Don't try and live up to anybody else's levels or expectations. Just be the best person and best golfer you can be. Try your hardest and work as hard as possible.
I want to ask you.
There's two things going to happen. It's either going to go well and you'll be successful, or it'll go badly and you won't. So.
Are you
flip of a coin?
Yeah. Are you? I thought. I think. You have to do this, and you mentioned selfish. It's a selfish endeavor, and you have to be selfish at times. But you do get to an age where you do feel like, and I'm going to ask you if you feel this, like you're playing for more than yourself. Your family's at a point in their lives where they have context of what their father has done and what he's still capable of doing. Does that help motivate you?
You are right. It's a very selfish game. Probably one of the most selfish. And I think it goes back to changing goals and having reasons to play. But at the end of the day, playing for somebody else is added pressure. So, I've always just tried to play for myself. When I go home, I'm just dad or Lee the dad, or well, I get called all sorts of things at home. Not necessarily dad anymore. Or Lee, or Lee the husband. So when I walk off a golf course now, that's what I've been really good at doing in recent years. When I walk off the golf course, that's kind of the end of golf for me. I don't really take it home too much anymore.
Are you in that phase of your life where you're cramping your kid's style? I'm kind of moving out of it. My daughters are 22 and soon to be 20. And from about 14 to 19, there's nothing that I could have done right. I was as clunky and as awkward a dad, and I didn't think that I was. Are you in the middle of that phase?
Yes, I'd say regularly I get that look and the dad, you're so not cool speech. But then I try and play on it. And be even less cool.
Let me ask you about the future of this Ryder Cup on the European side. The chatter over the last week or so, just because Padraig Harrington was glowing about saying that Luke Donald will be a great captain. Immediately, people just are projecting him to Italy. When would you like to be the Ryder Cup captain? Because you're going to be.
I'd like to be the Ryder Cup captain when I can enjoy it and when I can give it 100% and not feel like it's getting in the way of my playing career.
Okay.
I don't know when that time is, but I'm pretty sure that time will come at some stage. I would like to be of an age where I still got a little bit in common with the guys that are playing, but I walk up and down a range now, and I played with a kid last week in Abu Dhabi called Josh Hill, and he was knocking it 70 yards past myself and Bernd Wiesberger, and I asked him how old he was, and he was 17. Now, I've not got a lot in common with a 17-year-old. I have two kids older than him. So, I mean, it's a job I'd love to do at some stage, but it's got to mean everything to do it. And if I was doing it right now, I would feel, I think it's a full-time job, and I would feel like I couldn't commit 100% to it.
The belief that certain guys are more cut out to captain at home, in your case, Europe or on the road in America, because people are very familiar with you. And I think there are a lot of guys who are lined up to be the captain. Luke, yourself, Poulter, potentially McDowell, guys like that. You guys have made, you've been very productive coming over here. You've endeared yourself to the American fans. I think that you make a lot of sense at Bethpage. Is that too soon?
I don't know what the next 2 years holds or 4 years holds. So, that's fortunate. That's not a decision that needs making for another 2 years. So, like we said earlier, everything's changing so quickly in golf. So, it's just an impossible question to answer. But I'll say one thing. We've got a lot of candidates and not many years. So it's a bit like getting a square peg in a round hole, isn't it? By the time. You've mentioned Luke, myself, Henrik, Holtz. Then you start to look at guys like Sergio. You can't see Sergio not being captain. And then that could be 12 years down the line. Then you're talking about guys like Rory.
Yeah.
So it comes around quick. I remember playing in '97 like it was yesterday, and 11 Ryder Cups, and 24 years later or 5 years later, here we are talking about captaincy. So somebody's going to miss out. That's the problem.
You mentioning that, I hadn't even started thinking about even Sergio, and you could add Justin Rose. Justin has had some massive moments. I thought he was brilliant. Not only did he have the moment at Medina, I thought he was great at Glen Eagles. I mean, you guys are lined up like G5s on a tarmac. I mean, you're right. I mean, it is. There's like 6 or 7 of you guys that you could just slide right in there over the next 15 years. I do. If you had a guess for Italy, who do you think it'll be on the European side?
I'd say Luke's probably favourite right now, but
okay.
And I agree. I think he'd make a good captain. He's done the vice captaincy. I did the vice captaincy with him in France 4 years ago, or however long it was. And he's very, very knowledgeable. He's a good thinker. He thinks hard and gets everything clear before he says anything. Yeah, he's good in the team room. He's got the passion when he needs it. He's calculated.
I want to ask you, with the first major, obviously always being Augusta National, the first time you went, what struck you about the place, and what's the most important thing that you learned over the course of the years about how to play the golf course?
So I turned up to Augusta very, very early. I'd played in Argentina 2 weeks before, and then flown up there, and that was the first time I'd ever been to the United States. I flew up to Atlanta, and I went to Chateauland to do some practice, and then I just couldn't wait any longer. It got to like the Thursday or the Friday before tournament. I thought, I've got to go to Augusta and see what it's all about. And I turned up there, and the old pro there, Bob, kind
Bob
of met me.
Klecki, yeah.
And showed me around. And it was just how green the grass was and how white the buildings were. I think that's probably the first thing I noticed, and how tidy everything was. And then I went around the other side and saw the golf course, and just the undulations of it, and the massiveness of the piece of land. No crowds on it. One going down the hill, 9 coming there, and 18 just there, 10 in the corner, and then the huge piece of land between 18 and 9 running down to the 8th fairway and the 7th green. Just a huge expanse of grounds. It was like walking into a cathedral.
The first time I went there, I went with my dad. It was 1991. And what struck me was the proximity of certain holes to each other. And then it made complete sense as to, when you hear the roars and how close 13 green obviously is to 14 tee, but 15 green is just on the other side. And 16 tee is tucked back behind essentially that 14th tee. Just down in that little corridor right there, I was blown away. And in that particular year, Watson made eagle on 13 and 15. And whether you were on 13 or 15, it was like being on the same hole. It was remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything beats walking to the top of the hill on 15 in contention on a Sunday at the Masters. A hot, sticky day. Your palms are sweating. Hopefully you're in the middle of the fairway, staring at a second shot over the lake there. And hearing roars from somebody hitting close on 16 and somebody holding a birdie put up on 18, because you can hear that down the hill.
Yeah.
And, when Phil made in 2010, I was going down the 10th hole, and I think I was about 5 shots clear, and he went eagle. Did he go eagle birdie or something like that? And in the space of a hole, I went from 5 in front to 1 behind or something like that, or tied. So, but I knew exactly who it was and exactly what he was doing. And it's just, that kind of place, that kind of golf course where, it gives you like a feeling and a sense.
What was the thing that you most enjoyed about sharing the day and a half or 2 days with Sam there this past year? What stuck out for him, and what stays in your mind about sharing that with him?
Just getting to see him, play the golf course, and he's obviously watched it on TV, and he made 2 on 12 and chipped in on the last. Just realise how fast the greens are, and they weren't as quick at the tournament when we played, but he hit it in a few spots, and I said, "Oh, you might struggle to get that one up and down," and kind of 4 shots later, he's tapping in. And just appreciate the place and the history to it. We were lucky that Jimmy Dunn and Ed Hurley showed us around the place. We stayed in the Butler cabin, got to see all around the clubhouse and in the wine cellar downstairs.
Yep.
Just see how it all works. It was like going around a museum. It really is an incredible place.
The first time I played there, I stayed in the Butler cabin. I stayed in the Arkansas room, and I couldn't sleep. And I woke up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I just started watching the highlights, which is like watching golf porn. I mean, you're just watching, hours of highlights. To share that with your son. And by the way, when you went down to the wine cellar, did you see Eisenhower's crate that they have tucked away in the corner?
Yeah. So all that, yeah. It's incredible. It's a very special place. It was lovely to share it with Sam, I must admit. It was a great couple of days. I was a little tired playing because I'd just come off 2 good weeks. But, just to see him enjoy it was, what a dad wants.
No question. If you and I reconvene around the holidays at the end of this year, and I say to you it was a great year for you because, what would the answer be?
Still healthy. Still enjoying competing, still able to work as much as I know I need to work to compete with with the younger guys out here. So yeah, that's it really. It's not very results driven anymore because I know I'm still good enough. If it's all there on the right week, I know I can contend. So it's just getting myself into a place where that happens, giving myself the best chance.
All right, let me get you out of here with this. 5 quick questions. What's the most underrated city in the world?
I don't know if it's underrated because everybody loves the place, but Sydney in Australia. But I don't think that's underrated because when everybody talks about cities, everybody wants to live in Sydney. It's just such a long way away and such a desperate time change. You know what? I don't know. I've been to so many great cities and I love them all. They all have their own little bit. I love New York. Chicago took me by surprise how good Chicago was.
Yeah, great town. I don't know that I could not do a winter in Chicago. I went to a Bears-Packers game in 2016 with my wife and girls, and it was 2 below at kickoff. It's just, that's inhumane. All right, your favorite. Who is your favorite playing companion on the global stage in terms of pace of play, conversation, just utterly delightful? If you had to play with somebody 7 days in a row, who would it be?
God, you're asking me all the tough ones. You didn't give me a heads up, nothing on this. Anybody that plays quickly. I have pretty good conversation with most people. Somebody around my age.
Okay. I know somebody you like playing with because you commented on it years ago. You played with Bill Haas. It might have been in Charlotte. I'm not sure. But you're like, you know what? I could play with him every day. Plays quickly, delightful guy.
I like playing with Charlie Hoffman. I like playing with Matt Jones. Matt Jones is fantastic.
It's spooky how quick he is.
Yeah. I'm always rattling the club, putting it back in the bag, and his ball's in the air, or rustling something. The guys that get on with it are great. Yeah.
All right. What is Helen's biggest pet peeve?
With me?
Just in general, it could be with you. You might be her biggest pet peeve.
She said, I have too many clothes. I'll go away for a couple of weeks. Like I've come here. When I go back, she'll have given something away. I know it.
The American sports venue that you haven't been to that you need to get to?
Probably the 49ers new stadium.
Okay. Have you been to Fenway Park? Have you been to Yankee Stadium? You've been to Yankee Stadium, right?
I've been to Yankee Stadium. I've been to the Garden. I've sat courtside at the Garden and watched the Knicks. I guess Fenway Park. They talk about that, don't they, a lot? I would love to go to the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar.
Ah, that's a good one.
Or maybe Kentucky Derby would be a close second to that.
You have not been to the Derby?
No. I've only been to one racetrack in the US, and that's Gulfstream,
which is a good park. You of all people, now it's tricky because it's the beginning of May. You've been loyal to the Wells Fargo. You've been good to Johnny Harris. Now it's not in Charlotte this year, but you of all people need to get to the Derby. All right, last thing, your favorite cuss word or phrase on the golf course?
I can't say it.
Yeah, you can.
No, I really can't. It's the ultimate bad one. So see you next Tuesday.
Oh, okay. I got you.
I call myself that. I don't call anybody else it. And I always do it quietly under my breath.
Very nice. Hey, listen, thank you very much for taking the time. Stay well. Look forward to seeing you down the road.
Cheers. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate Lee Westwood's time today, and I'm very thankful that he didn't share that word or phrase that he utters under his breath. Good for everybody, starting with him. Well, most importantly, I expect him to have another really good year. But most importantly, beyond that, his voice. I love when he goes into a media center, gives honest thoughts, honest opinions, And if you want a really good follow on Twitter, follow him at Lee Westwood. And thank you for listening to this Five Clubs conversation. Next week, how about Webb Simpson in studio? Our first in-studio guest, also Trey Wingo, who is part of PGA Tour Live's coverage. And why not have a little football chatter with the guy who covered the NFL on ESPN for years and years and years. Have a great day. We'll see you next week on the Five Clubs Conversation.